Hello everyone, welcome to Safetica's free webinar where I will talk about why and how should manufacturing companies protect their know-how from leakage. I'm Jan Mazal, Product Marketing Manager here in Safetica, and in the following 30 minutes I will share with you some insights about what losses manufacturing companies face when their know-how leaks, why most of SMBs cannot efficiently prevent the data leakage, and how to prevent the data leakage within your current IT capacities. And then we will have approximately 15 minutes available for your questions and answers. So let's start. So what is the current situation for most of the companies today? The data and people have become the main business drivers. But when you are a manufacturer undergoing the digitization of all the data and automation of the processes, if you are using cloud services or when you are even offering your products online or synchronizing your supply chain online, or when you are even adapting hybrid work, especially for R&D workers, it's really hard to protect your data from leakage. And when I say your data, I mean all the valuable information that your organization stores, including the employee data, but also your blueprints, designs, or other plans that you can have possibly. So it's why it's difficult to protect the data from leakage or breach today. Let me tell you a few facts. According to Veronis Manufacturing Data Risk Report from 2021, 4 in 10 organizations have more than 1,000 sensitive files open to every employee. On average, every employee has access to 6 million files, including proprietary information. And also, on average, over 27,000 sensitive files, at least according to the report. And I mean, sensitive files like financial, trade secrets, or business plans are open to everyone. And today most of the companies are afraid that somebody will attack them from the outside, the still data from the outside. Even current research from Forrester analysts shows that the security decision makers are more concerned about the attacks from the outside. But in reality, Forrester says that the data breaches are much more evenly spread in frequency, also among the internal incidents, lost or stolen data, or problems with third-party providers. So, according to the Verizon Data Breach Investigation Report from 2021, almost half of the employees take the work-related data with them when leaving their jobs. Either they think that they have right to do so, or they don't consider it as bad, or they know and want to take advantage of it. Another report from Tessian covers the thing that happens, let's say, in the daily operations and daily business. And they say that that 40% of employees admitted that they sent an email to the wrong person. Usually this is something that happens by mistake. And obviously, more than half of the incidents are caused by negligent employees. Either they don't care or they don't know any better how to manipulate or work with the data. Let me give you some examples that made it to the media. So the first one, as you can see, is from Apple. Former engineers are currently suspected and investigated for stealing Apple chip trade secrets. The M1 processors, which is the really important hardware for Apple, and they're really celebrating success. So there are some suspected engineers that could steal the know-how behind these chips. Also, Boeing has one of the most interesting data breaches that happened like 5 years ago in 2017. An employee asked their spouse to help with the formatting a document with the information of 36,000 Boeing workers. This meant that an email containing sensitive employee information was sent outside of the company's network to this employee's private email. DuPont, that is the large conglomerate of scientific research and product manufacturing, has another problem. Its research is really like one of the largest assets and was compromised by the insider breach. And a company employee accepted a job with a competitor and downloaded nearly 40,000 sensitive files to bring with him to his new employer in 2005. And one of the latest In 2021, a Japanese electronic components manufacturer Murata announced that the leak of tens of thousands of files that contain bank account information for employees and also business partners of the company. And how it happened, an employee downloaded project management data, including these business partner information, personal information of the employees, to his or her business computer without permission, and then uploaded the file to the personal cloud service. So you might object that why should we bother when even these big brands, these big vendors were not able to protect themselves, their data? The thing is that only the big names make it to the media outlets. The big names at the same time have big cash available to survive almost whatever happens to them. And most of the smaller breaches have never been disclosed publicly, and some of them we know as a Safetica because they've became our customers, but there is no other way how to find out. And I would say that this is really, really just the top of the iceberg, the stories that appears in the media. So let's put down the individual examples and let's have some general overview, some general stats. I will talk about the insiders mainly, and if we talk about, if I say insider, it has some, let's say, negative connotation, but in reality, insider by definition is any employee or contractor with the access to sensitive information or confidential information within the company. So the research from Ponemon Institute says that the number of insider-caused cybersecurity incidents increased by half in the recent 2 years. Another research from Securonics says that almost 3/4 of companies confirm that insider attacks are becoming more and more frequent. And another survey from Wall Street Journal says that 2/3 of the companies, especially the big ones, are afraid of malicious employees that could harm them. And that are not very, let's say, nice numbers to show, but that's the reality. Also, in the recent years, you could read about the nearly half of the manufacturers suffering digital attack and half of them experienced data breaches. And also, according to the CISA report from 2019, the manufacturing sector reported the highest number of insider attacks among the companies in the critical infrastructure sector. So now you hopefully understand the breadth of the problem. But the thing is that and what's even worse, in fact, with these insider cost incidents is that that is something that just happens every day. By mistake or by intention, the employees might send the sensitive data outside of the company, causing the loss of your know-how or compliance violations, for example. And then you are facing, for example, regulatory fines, reputational damage, but just in case your data appears somewhere publicly or somebody starts to complain publicly. But this is something that does not have to happen at all. So instead, you could see your competitors advancing much faster than you expected, introducing better products than you have, or starting campaigns beating your value proposition. So you are losing your competitive advantage, you're losing the benefits of your R&D investment, and in fact, you are facing the customer churn in the long run. That's why, at least according to our perspective, that's why we think that the C-level executives need to know the exposure, or let's say the risk level of their company. They need to get notified in case of significant security incident or breach. And especially to security or compliance executives, it's very important to have the company's general compliance overview. For the IT or security managers, they really need to be able to prevent such a dangerous file sharing, copying, or uploads somewhere outside of the company. They also need to be able to audit the incidents for later investigation or for forensics purposes. And also they need to be aware, obviously, for the policy or the possible policy violations to be able to respond in time. So when you are not able to detect the potential risks and prevent data leakage, it can be very costly. And I will get to this later. So what are the costs of the data leaks and insider threat incidents? Again, according to already mentioned report from Ponemon Institute, the average cost per data leaking inside out of the company is 645, over 645, almost 646,000 US dollars. If the incident is caused by negligent employee or contractor, the cost is usually lower, let's say 480,000 US dollars. In the case of criminal, or let's say malicious insiders, those that intentionally want to harm you or monetize your data, the costs are higher, approximately 650,000 US dollars. And even much higher in case the data leak is caused by criminal that misused your employee's username and password, those credentials, to get the sensitive information or to steal it from the outside to get to the network and they steal it out, acting as an employee. But on the other hand, that is the very least probable incident. As you can see, most of the data leaks are caused by negligent employees or those contractors. And in total, this creates the highest data loss. What's more important, the yearly spend is growing year on year. You see it grew like over 80% from the 2016, and it will grow again due to digitization of all the data, digitization of processes, having in general having more and more information in a digital form, and having more and more processes digitized and making it more complex and difficult to have an overview where you store all the sensitive or confidential data. If you look at the average total cost of data breach from the IBM Cost of Data Breach Report 2021, the cost goes from 3.6 million US dollars in R&D companies, over 4.4 million in industrial companies, and almost 4.9 million US dollars in technology segment. As a matter of fact, the data breach can be caused by insider like the one I mentioned, but also by external attacker as well. But now I showed you that it's very, very probable, at least the probability that this will happen is in fact the same. And at the same time, the Ponemon Institute says that the cost of the activities required to resolve the insider threat incidents in SMBs, I mean like the companies up to 500 employees, approximately over a 12 months, those costs are over 8 million US dollars on average for those all 12 months. At this point, I usually get the question, why does it cost so much? Of course, there are differences across the world, verticals, but in general, most of the companies today cannot efficiently detect the insider threats. And usually when they detect the threat, it takes months to discover the data breach. And when they find out, then it takes additional 2 to 3 months to contain the incident. So to put it simple, it just takes too long to discover and to contain. So when you notice any early signs and start to deal with the incident, of course, you need to escalate, start to respond, and so on. So here you can see the overall structure of all the activity costs. But to make it easier for you to understand this analyst language, let me compare it to firefighting. So let's imagine the data leak incident as a fire. So when you notice that it happened or something happened, you need to escalate to make people extinguish the fire, let's say. So it costs you very, very little, those 5% maybe of the cost. But then you start the most urgent firefighting, that follows almost 20% of the spend. At the same time, you need to limit the outbreak, to contain the incident. In case of IT, it's like shutting down the affected systems or the computers, and that swallows almost 30%. Of course, you need to investigate what happened and why. That's another 20%. And then you follow with the fixing and restoring everything, and that follows additional 20 to 30% of the money. So do you remember those regulatory fines, loss of competitive advantage, reputational damage, this kind of information I shared with you in the previous slides? It's not there. And you can trust me that it wouldn't be a small piece of this pie. Anyways, there are ways how to prevent such incidents. And some of you could already have the experience with such a tools. and these tools are data loss prevention tools or solutions or software. So DLP solutions in general are those that protect you from the inside out. So you probably know the antivirus, firewalls, the other solutions. Those are solutions that protects you against the external attackers, let's say hackers coming from the outside. But DLP protects your data from being sent or uploaded from the inside out of the company, either intentionally or by accident. And you can also hear other vendors on the market using different names for such a solutions like insider threat protection tools, because it helps you to protect against the human error and malicious acts. Either way, it's a software. Basically, it's a program that is managed by your IT, by security department if you have one. And there is also a reason why many companies don't use it, and many, especially IT people, don't enjoy using it that much. And so let me explain what's the reason behind. So what's wrong with many DLP tools on the market? First, to be able to prevent the sensitive or confidential data from leaking inside out of your company, you need to know where the data is. And then you need to, if you know that, you need to label or mark those files as a confidential or sensitive. And not only files that you already had, but also those that are being created or will be created in the future. So this is usually very, very difficult activity because the files can be literally everywhere. Second, when you have the sensitive or confidential data marked or labeled, you need to set the rules, meaning define who can work with this information and how. And when companies try to see to set what is strictly allowed and what not, they usually end up with never-ending projects that take months, quarters, or even like over a year. And in the end, those projects are very costly. What's even worse, in the case of like hard restrictions, if you are trying to really limit what's possible and what's not, what's allowed and what's not, you often end up like starting limiting your employees' productivity. You can imagine permanent conflicts between not properly set rules and tasks that certain employees need to execute in their daily jobs and daily work. And the third, almost any company I know lacks the IT specialist. And in the case of cybersecurity, it's even worse. The situation is even worse. And this is again the thing that's worsening the second point, the implementation. And what's even more difficult or challenging, if you are a SMB company, like small and mid-sized companies, the situation, it's much more challenging because you usually don't have spare capacities in your IT. You have, let's say, one or two people taking care of everything from making your computers and internet working up to replacing cartridges in the printers. And if you are even requesting them, at least hopefully you're requesting them to secure your IT environment and your business. So this is really, really challenging thing with those limited capacities. Luckily, the world has changed and advanced, I would say, and I can admit that it's not for good always, but life taught me to always look at the bright side. So first, we got used to use the cloud and consuming IT as a service. So today, usually we use email from Microsoft or Google or any other provider. We have the customer data stored in Sales or the partner data stored in Salesforce or HubSpot CRM or any other cloud CRM. And even in our private lives, we are now watching Netflix, listening to Spotify, and we don't bother how it works, or where it runs. We just use it. We pay as you go for its availability, and then that's it. Second, thanks to the advancement in technologies, today it's much easier to automate many IT and security tasks and to teach the machines, meaning the computers or the software, to do the routine tasks instead of humans. And third, we already had the chance to collect some best practices on the way to learn from what went wrong in the past and what could have been done better way. And thanks to that, we are able to introduce a new solution. We call it Next Gen SaaS DLP. That's a tool that basically keeps your sensitive data out of the wrong hands simply by detecting the security risks and preventing the potential incidents literally from day one. It's a solution that is really focused on just the core data security scenario. So it's not covering everything. It doesn't cover everything that you have in the company. It's covering the most critical and the most important things, the data security scenarios. It's maximally simplified, so it's focused on maximum simplicity and the maximum automation based on the best practices that we've collected in the past. So very basically, what it does, so Safetica Next searches for any regulated data like personal, financial, or health, and also for like business sensitive kind of information like contracts, business plans, blueprints, or even the source code if you are software development company. So that's a really good question. In fact, do you know where do you store this kind of information or this kind of documents and data across your company? Because when the researchers from Ponemon Institute asked the companies from all the possible, so they asked from all the possible channels, the ways how the users or where the users tend to store the sensitive or confidential data. What it came out like that the most typical way, the most typical place where you can find the sensitive or confidential data in the organizations are the first in their emails, on the network drives, in the cloud applications, or on the endpoint, like the computer devices, hard drives. Of course, the data is also available in databases. That is the official place to store them. Or it is saved to removable media, like the USB flash drive, which is usually unwanted if it's not a company-owned encrypted USB flash drive. And there is also another perspective. So the researchers the analysts, they also asked the IT managers, CIOs, and CISOs which channels, again, which places or the places where the data can flow, which channels they are most worried about because they see that there is a high risk of insider-driven data loss. And again, the cloud, the network, and email and web applications were mentioned the most together with removable media. So this is also one of the examples of the best practices I was talking about. With Safetica Next, the IT managers and C-level executives get the necessary visibility across all the important channels, including email, file shares, cloud, removable storages. We are also covering social media and instant managers and others. So these are the not totally everything, but the most typical and most critical ones. So now let me very briefly explain why we consider Safetica Next better than what has been available in market so far. So we have like 3 pillars. The first is around the short time to value and high flexibility. So you can have your own environment, the DLP environment, ready in a matter of minutes. Then it requires approximately 1 man-day or like several hours to install it on your employees' computers and restore those computers. But basically, you can start protecting your data in days. And you can pay as you go, pay monthly if you prefer, or as you need. We also say that it's really easy to manage, easy to use. So your environment basically comes pre-configured, and it also contains out-of-box templates that for easy categorization of the data. And what else? The tool also, let's say, learns what can be considered as your safe workspace that does not require any hard restrictions of the user's work. So in fact, the whole product minimizes the amount of settings and administration required. So that was the efficiency tier or efficiency pillar. Also, we think that what's really valuable is the risk-driven incident detection. So we detect or the solution detects the risky users and risky operations fully automatically. So based on the data analytics, risk evaluation, so the risk. So based on the data analytics, the risk evaluation helps you to detect the potential incidents. Let's say uncover any unusual or suspicious user activity. Also, we are trying to cover the full perimeters, as I already mentioned, cover the key channels, provide the visibility into these channels. We provide both macOS and Windows, and we even fully protect the temporarily offline devices, those that are for any reason are not connected to the internet. So that's the security pillar. And what is really important, we are ready for the users working from home or remotely. So we fully support the hybrid workspace. And last but not least is the mature MSP-ready architecture. So we, as I mentioned, we were using our best practices from the enterprise DLP, and we really adjusted it for the needs or to the needs of SMB. So we built Safetica Next from scratch to run natively in the cloud, to be as easy to use as possible. It also has very, very low impact on endpoint performance, like the computer's performance, let's say under 3%. So it does not limit users anyhow in their daily work. And as I mentioned, it's let's say cloud or MSP ready, or cloud native and MSP ready. That means that it's ready for managed service providers. So if you cooperate or if you consume services from any managed service provider, they can provide you Safetica Next as a service. So that's the third pillar, the architecture. Now, let me provide some proofs. At the very beginning, I told you about the legacy DLP tools that require to have sufficient IT capacities, the deep expertise, dedicated security specialists, which usually lead to very lengthy and costly implementation projects, and which could put some barriers on users' daily tasks and jobs. So this is something that we are heavily fighting against. And I would like to give you some examples and also prove you how we are, or tell you how we are doing so far. So first, let me show you one example of our customer. Wyckoff Industries is a family business. The business runs for over 100 years already, and they manufacture gearboxes from like 300 kilograms to massive ones, like the one you can see on this picture. And the CEO at that time and the owner of the company wasn't giving too much attention to the data protection. However, everything changed during his business trip to China. So at this business trip, he was planning to purchase new technologies for his company and possibly look for new partners or partnerships. But when the companies started to showing him the blueprints and the technologies, he realized that he already seen this from the business partners in Europe. And at that moment, he realized that this is something that could happen to his company as well, or maybe it had happened already, but he didn't know. So after the owner returned back from his trip, he decided to go for, like, after some considerations, he decided to go for the Safetica DLP solution, and he deployed it, or he had it deployed for the whole group of the company. Basically, I would like to provide you some general statistics. So software reviews by Infotech analysts collect the inputs directly from the end customers and create the evaluation of the various software vendors, including the DLP. So the vast majority of the Safetica customers surveyed consider our products as reliable, enabling their productivity and enhancing their performance. From the customer experience perspective, Safetica performs better than its competitors and better on average in saving our clients time, in transparency during negotiations and communications with our clients, with the customers, and continually improving our product offering. And last but not least, over 90% of interviewed customers think that Safetica is critical to their professional success. So based on the recognition and the feedback collected from our customers, Safetica was ranked first in ease of implementation and overall as a leader in software reviews DLP data quadrant. And I hope this underlines our vision and our purpose to make the excellent data protection easy to all companies, no matter if they are large or if they are small, so they can focus on their business and not to worry about the data loss. Obviously, no good solution is offered for free, but should provide some convenient options. So for the Safetica Next as a SaaS solution as a service is available in two options, in the form monthly subscription or annual subscription. Either way, it's always paid per user. So depending how many users you have, this is the price you pay, monthly or annually. There are no extras. This is just, let's say, the very simple subscription pricing. The monthly subscription is billed pro rata and paid always for the previous month. It can be increased. The number of users can be increased anytime and decreased obviously at the end of the month. For the annual subscription, again, it's paid per user. It's invoiced and paid before the start of the next billing period. It can be, again, increased anytime and decreased on its anniversary date. Also, for those who attend today online, we have the promo. We have a special time-limited offer, and that is the offer of a free data security review or audit that helps you to discover weak points in your company's data security. It's available to all participants from US, Canada, and UK. If you are not from this region, still please contact us so we can discuss. And you can request this security review by visiting the link that is there, or scanning the QR code and getting in contact with us. And I will also share the link with you after or at the end of this webinar. If you feel that this tool is something that your IT could be interested in, we also offer free trial subscription. This free trial, is fully accessible via web browser. This is all you need. It has the demo data and built-in product guide that helps the admin or the IT manager to understand how the solution works, so they can just quickly get inside, try to play with the data, and then see how the whole solution works. So at the end, I hope that now you understand that those insiders, like in fact all the employees that have access to your sensitive or confidential data, represent the real risk to your business, not intentionally necessarily, and that there is a reason why companies fail in protecting them against the data leakage. But the good news is that there is a solution. There's the tool that keeps your sensitive data from falling into the wrong hands. It can detect the security risks and prevent incidents from day one. And it's really focused on maximum simplicity and automation based on our best practices. So even if you have small IT department lacking the capacity, no hardware infrastructure, this is something that still is very achievable and easy to use and deploy. And it's provided as a service with monthly or annual subscription, depending of what you prefer. So that's all from my side. I will check if you have any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to write those in the chat. I will try to respond, and also let me share with you, because I see that one of you. Thank you for telling this, and if I can share the presentation, of course, let me post it to the chat. So here you can find the presentation slides, data sheet, information about the free security review, and link to the free web trial. If there is any problem with the link, I'll try it later and share it with you. Also check at the YouTube if anything else appears. But anyways, I will still wait for a couple of, I don't want to say minutes, but seconds, if any question or comment appears. And if not, I would like to thank you for today's attendance. If you had any other question later, feel free to drop it to the chat, or feel free to reach me on the email or directly via LinkedIn email, and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. And yeah, so that's it. I wish you wonderful rest of the day, and I look forward to be there with you next time. So enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.